The church is in darkness. The only light you can see is from the dim street light that glows behind the yew tree. The graveyard is silent, except for the sound of the crunching of the autumn leaves beneath your feet. You see something from the corner of your eye standing near the bell tower. As you approach the heavy old oak doors to the church, a monk walks through the door, past you, and disappears as he walks down the path between the headstones. Welcome to Ghost Tales by the Fireside. I am Clem Dallaway, and I'll be telling you about the hauntings of Ipsley, an area of Redditch in Worcestershire that originates from Saxon times. Ipsley is in the southwest area of Redditch, and once covered most of what we now know as Redditch. It is adjacent to the Roman road Icknield Street, which is at the eastern end of Ipsley Church Lane. The hilltop where St Peter's Church stands has been occupied since the time of the ancient Britons, and the first church was built there during Saxon times. The Law Society stands behind the church and is the site of Ipsley Court, a 16th century house which was built by the Huban family, who held the manor of Ipsley for 650 years. In the 18th century, the house was bought by the local rector, who had parts of the property demolished and redesigned into what can be seen today. In the 1990s, contractors were fitting an alarm and CCTV system at the Law Society at the back of Ipsley Church. Weeks later, they were called back as the alarms kept going off at night while nobody was in the building. The contractors went back to check the alarms and all was fine. No faults. Everything was working as it should be. Days later, they were called back again, as the alarms still kept going off. This time they went in the evening after everyone had finished work. Everything was double-checked and all seemed fine, until just before leaving. They were in the security room when one of the alarms went off. They looked at the CCTV screen and watched the figure of what appeared to be a monk walking through the room where the alarm had been activated. They watched him walk into the next room and the alarm went off for that room. This happened in 6 rooms. A short distance from the church and Ipsley Court is the Old Rectory, a hotel that is built on the settlement of where Earl Algar lived in Anglo-Saxon times. Earl Algar was the son of Leofric, Earl of Mercia, and the famous Lady Godiva, who reputedly rode naked, only covered by her long hair, through Coventry to gain remission of the oppressive taxation that her husband, Leofric, had imposed on his tenants. In the 19th century, the property was completely rebuilt by the great-grandson of Christopher Wren into the beautiful building we see today. At some point in history, the site was also used as a monastery. The house was used as a private residence until the latter part of the 20th century, when the house was converted into a hotel. In the 1960s, the 4-year-old boy of the family who lived in the house asked his parents who the man was who walked into his room. He described him as wearing something on his head that went up in a point and went all the way down to his feet. The child's description of a monk in a habit. He said that he walked towards him and looked at him before walking over to his brother, and then over to the baby who was in the cot. The room that they were sharing was the largest room in the house, and part of it was previously used as a chapel, which included a priest hole that runs to other rooms on other floors. The vicar of Bridbrook in Warwickshire once stayed in the room and said that he'd seen somebody walk across the room in the night without making a sound. One couple who stayed at the house woke one morning asking if the room was haunted. The wife of the couple said that she thought her husband had got up in the night and walked across the room. She thought it was unusual, as he never does this at home. The next night, it happened again, but then she realised that her husband was still in bed. She noticed that the footsteps were silent. After the house became a hotel, a wedding was held in the 1990s. Two of the children who were at the reception were put to bed. Around 12:30, the children came out of the room asking who the man was that walked around the room and then left. All of the guests were in the reception, only the children were upstairs. In the 1980s, after a night out, a young couple were walking home. The easiest way for them to get home was via the Arrow Valley Lake and through Ipsley. As they started the ascent of the hill that is Ipsley Church Lane, they were startled by a goat that lived at one of the cottages at the bottom of the lane. He was white, so in the darkness he looked pretty scary. They laughed about it and carried on their way. About halfway up the hill, they saw two cloaked figures approaching them. They moved to the side of the road so as not to be in their way. They noticed that they didn't have any feet, and as they got closer to them, they vanished. Over time, from roadworks and development, the road has become higher than it was a few hundred years ago. So the ghostly monks will be walking on the original level of the road, as it was in their time. So not seeing the feet of the monks is plausible. To the west of the church is a conservation area with a walkway running through it. During the 1990s, a group of teenagers used to walk around the Arrow Valley Lake when the evenings got dark early. They walked into the wooded area next to St. Peter's Church, which at some point you come to a large clearing. They witnessed a big blue ball of light that flew past them, travelling at a high speed. Just afterwards, a tall, hooded figure came walking towards them, but they ran away in fear. The earthworks of the remains of a deserted medieval settlement is also to the west of the church, whose inhabitants would have used the nearby River Arrow for fishing. During excavations in the 1970s, the skeletal remains of an Anglo-Saxon man was found, who was in a small fishing boat. A local urban legend is that one of the grave monuments that is an angel once had her hand removed by a priest, as it was believed that the angel would turn the pages of the Bible that she was holding. It is also believed that the angel would float around the church at night. In the 1980s, two teenagers had an experience that they'd never forget. They were camping in a field that lies opposite St. Peter's Church. They stayed there to see if they could witness the angel floating around the church. They entered the church gate and walked towards the church doors. As they approached, they saw a man in yellow waterproofs, like what fishermen wear. The man just stood still and stared at them before disappearing. The two boys ran home. Thank you for listening to Ghost Tales by the Fireside. You can log on to our Facebook page, facebook.com Ghost Tales Podcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Ghost Tales Podcast. This podcast will be out monthly and is available on most platforms. All music, research, writing, production, art and sound effects are my own work. In this episode, I'm going to leave you with a song I wrote with my son on vocals. It was inspired by a local ghost story near to my house. You can find more of my music on all music platforms under Clem Dallaway.
Sometimes I see you from the corner of my eye. I can feel you when the cold wind rushes by. I can hear you through the cracks in my home. And in my mind, when I'm all alone, but I'm not scared of you, not scared of being on my own. I look into my mind, I wanna stay alone. I see you when the lights go out, I see you when the lights go out. This cold air fills me with fear. I see you when the lights go out, I see you when the lights go out.